Hello there. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back. It's been a couple of weeks since we have been here in all Knicked Up studios, but we're back. We're back this week. The summertime and the off season can be a little tough, but we are going to talk about a couple of topics tonight, maybe and possibly things will offshoot from that, like they normally do. I just have the conversation going. Uh, we are deep into powder season. We're all guys here. We know what powder season is, so we are deep into the powder season, and it can be sticky sometimes. So, but we're here to help you cool off. We're here to help you transition from the regular season, the playoffs. Now we're here in the off season, and of course, we will be live when the regular season begins. All right. So you guys know I don't do this alone. Let me first bring in Ty.
Here we
Hello
go.
there.
What's going on,
Yes,
brother?
what's going on? Yeah, man. Been a couple weeks since we did a show,
Yes,
but
yes.
yeah, it's time. I think there's some stuff has happened, so we can really get in and talk about uh all the stuff that's happening. And this is the drama time, right? This is when we hear drama going on.
Always, always.
The summertime. Since summer league was kind of dull and boring, for us anyway. Um,
Yeah, there's
so yeah, so we are uh, trying to capture something that's going on with the Knicks, and they usually do give us some kind of drama-filled
hmm
situation, and that's nothing new this summer. So we will get into that a little bit. But yeah, what you been up to, man? How's your summer going?
I'd rather be tanning a little bit more. That's always a plus for me. I do like being extra chocolate, for those that don't know. Um, hey, Hershey will never go out of business. I tell people all the time. Um, Pretty much just working, trying to catch a couple of rays here and there. The weather's been as erratic as the people are in the world, I would say. It's a little bipolar in a sense. Just trying to maintain. Took a little trip to visit some family a little while ago and check up on them and just maintaining. Trying to keep the family, the crazy glue together. That's all.
Yeah, I haven't. I've been wanting to do some these little trips here and there this summer, but it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
I've been trying to do some weekend trips, but stuff comes up, and
Oh yeah.
when you're in a big
Life flies by, man. You can't. The
serious,
older you get, the quicker it goes by. Someone told me that a while ago. I didn't believe it, but I'm entrenched in that belief now. From
yeah, man.
Friday
I mean, it's
like that.
yeah. August is what next week, two
Yeah,
weeks, whatever.
yeah.
Crazy, crazy.
Summer's almost
That's
over, and I didn't even remember it.
I know training camp will be here soon, and
Yes, yes,
we'll
yes.
get caught up in the crap and the madness once again.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are wondering where Joe is. He's having some technical difficulties, so hopefully we can figure it out and bring him in.
Please stand by.
Um, yes, I mean I'm looking my Santa Claus best right now with my really red cheeks. I'm noticing, but that's because I just took a shower and I worked out. So
Gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha.
but
Yeah.
yeah. So
I don't got too many rosy looks here, so it's just like, I
well,
need
I have enough for the both of us. So I think it's okay. My redness kind of comes
got
out.
the cherries around here. Let's go.
So yeah. So all right. So we could just kind of skim through summer league because nothing really happened. And I don't want to spend much time on it.
Yeah.
Uh, Obviously, the Knicks didn't have a first or second round pick. They had no draft pick, so there's really nothing to get excited about. Roku Yakubitis, who they drafted a couple years ago, didn't come over, and I heard today he's still not coming for
Nope.
another year.
Nope.
So we will not have him either. So that's fun as always. Not
Mhm.
having that guy. We know why he doesn't want to come. We're gonna get into that a little later, though.
Yeah. He got a
We,
little island tibitis or something.
yeah, we got into that a little bit later. Because apparently it happened again. I mean, we're gonna say it happened again. So, but Joe is here. Look a little foggy, but he is here. So let's add him to the stream.
Oh, there you go,
We
brother.
figured it
You
out.
know, a little bit of technical difficulties.
But you figured it out. That's all that matters. And you're here.
Yeah, I switched to my old laptop. The new laptop I don't think is ready for prime time.
Meaning you have to figure it out. That's what it is.
I got figure it out skills.
So, all right, we're doing good. We're good. No, we haven't really got into anything yet. We were just kind of going through since we've been gone for a couple of weeks. We didn't record last week. We didn't do a show, so just kind of touching base and seeing how everything's been. We were just about to get into just skim through summer league because, like we said, we all talked before. We're like, there's really nothing to talk about. But there were a few things that I noticed that came from it. One, I don't know if Trevor Keels is really ever going to play in the NBA. That's number one. No. I mean, I'll give him credit for the first game I saw him, and then towards the end of the summer league, he did look better. I'll give him that. He started to improve, but I kind of wanted to see him dominate, and not because he was picked high because he was a second round pick. He was a McDonald's All-American. He was a 5-star recruit in high school, and I know they don't always pan out, but usually in those situations like this kind of a league, those guys usually shine. Right. And man, the only thing that was shining on him was his forehead from the sweat because he did nothing else.
I was laughing. You said McDonald's All-American. I was like, he probably went through the drive-through quite a few extra American points because clearly he was a Ricky Thicky Henderson going on there. That dude was thicker than me, and that's just not good to play.
Yeah, he was not. I wanted to see a little more from him, so I was disappointed with his performance. Another guy who has been talked about highly as possibly the backup power forward was Isaiah Roby, who also didn't show me much, which is a little surprising because he has had success in the NBA, so it's weird to see him in this position. But yeah, I was not happy with him, and we all know we need a backup. So those are the two things that I were focusing on for me going to Summer League. I just wanted to see how those two guys played, and I was not impressed. Anything you guys want to touch on about Summer League? We don't have to talk about outside of the Knicks if you don't want to. We just keep it strictly Knicks. So anything?
I needed coffee to get through it.
The rook I thought was pretty good. The rookie, the unsigned rook, I should say.
Yeah.
I thought he did have a nice showing as a 19-year-old. I think that was the funniest thing about it was seeing a 19-year-old have a better game than Keels and Roby. I thought that was just beyond shocking, but it just proved that the kid wanted to prove himself. I think he played for the Ignite team.
Yep.
I think they had like 3 or 4 guys that came out of that program. So, he's definitely showed that he has some chops. Probably going to be a G leaguer, a 2-way contract person. He'll be in Westchester probably for a little bit, but he's got some game. He's got something there. It's not like he can defend. His shot is what's really going to hold him back. He's got a lot of work on that, but I always like seeing us have some little promise come out of Summer League. Other than that was just a terrible showing. I'm sorry. Outside of the certain guys had some good showings that probably won't make the team. And once again, we had the guys that showed really well. And Martin is another guard. Like we need another one of those. We don't need another one of those. If anything, we need a small forward, and we can't seem to find one of those.
Yeah. And Joe, before you came on, I did mention that Rokas Jokubaitis, the guy they took 2 years ago from Europe, announced today that he is not coming still. He's still staying over there.
Yeah, I read that.
Yep. So that was I'm waiting for him because I think he does have game. But we'll get into a little bit later about why he hasn't come over. We'll talk about that a little bit. Because that's going to be the bulk of the conversation, I believe, when we get there. The guys that kind of shined in the Summer League for the Knicks was QJ Peterson, who's actually a 28-year-old guy. He's been around for a while. Yet another guard. So, and then the Russian center, the Ukrainian center, I thought when I saw him play, I thought he looked good, but he has a very old school traditional center's game. and I like those type players. So for me, it was fun to watch someone play like that. But I don't know if he'll even be invited to camp and I don't know what they're doing with the Knicks right now in the front court. I really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have tweeners. They have a tweener in Sims who could play center and power forward. I'm just looking at the backups that they possibly could put out there. Obviously, they're relying on Hart and Barrett. Now, if Barrett really is 6'8", 6'9", that changes things. With what he could possibly do in the front court. But I need to wait. I know Randall said that, but I need to wait and see because I don't believe it until I see it. Not with this team anyway. So I need to see that. But with his game though, and the way he plays, that might be a good place for him to be right down close to the basket. If it's something that he really is taller, that might be something that they want. So it might not be bad to have him play those minutes. But I think the focal point of what happened this week was twofold. And first we'll talk about the internal stuff, and then we'll talk about the trade possibility that people are throwing out there, which I think is ridiculous, but we'll get into it. So first, yet another player has called out his lack of relationship with the head coach. Now, we've heard this before from Cam Reddish. Cam Reddish had said some things about Coach Thibodeau. We had heard this before from Obi recently. Obviously, there was friction there between him and Coach. And now Evan Fournier, when asked about his relationship with the coach, he pretty much said he didn't have one. He said the coach didn't really talk to him once he was removed from the rotation. He was kind of like, we're doing something different. And then he just never really went back to him and explained anything to him. To Fournier's credit, I think he handled it well. He was a professional all season. Didn't really talk too much about it. He's like, I'll be ready when I'm called. That was what he said. But this is a larger problem for me, not only because of him saying it and what happened with Obi, but we saw that poll of NBA players and the coach they wouldn't want to play for. And Thibodeau had like 44% of the players, and the next one was like 12. I don't remember which coach it was, but it was like a huge gap. So we've heard about this being an issue in the past, players not wanting to come here for various reasons, but now this adds another layer to it. So Joe, when you heard Fournier's comments, were you surprised?
No. I wasn't surprised at all, and I think they're kind of justified. I could definitely understand where he's coming from. I don't think he played himself out of a position to the point where he's just disappearing off the bench and getting no burn. I think Thibodeau's inability to utilize Evan Fournier, especially considering our lack of outside shooting, is troubling. Again, I've said in the last, session that we had that I have a certain fondness for Thibodeau. I do. I'm glad we hired him for a certain point, but I'm hoping kind of that the Cam Reddishes and the Obi Toppins of the world and Evan Fournier, if he winds up playing somewhere else, will start to show their worth. And the question arises, why couldn't you do something with this? Now, I've said before, I thought Obi was a bad fit and everything like that, but I don't know. I think it's really hard for him. He's in his prime. The guy's a competitor. He wants to play. Doesn't necessarily deserve this, but it bears the question again, why did the front office get this guy? I remember hearing somewhere that Tibbs was all for this too.
Yeah, he was.
Yep.
The problem is I don't know that he's going to get traded before next year because I think they're counting on that salary for salary matching for whatever they're going to do at some point. And, with all the guards that we have and everything like that, the Fournier situation, we have a chance for a stinky locker room. So, no, I'm not surprised at anything he said at all.
Yeah, I think, I wasn't. I know that for sure. I was not surprised to hear this again. we've talked about this in the past. Even I think in the last show that he has a style that eventually greets on players, and when it gets to that point, he's not. I don't think he's the guy that. And Joe, you said this. He's not the guy that's going to get you over the hump, but he can bring you to that certain right. He can bring you to that certain point where you're
Which is
getting.
important. But
Yes, it is. Like what he did, putting structure here, building some kind of system, having players be accountable. It was smart. Yeah, except Randall. That's why but yeah, like that was good. That's been good for the culture of the organization, especially coming off of the mess it had been for so long. So Ty, we before Joe even came on the show, we had been very critical of the coach. So I know you weren't surprised. I know that.
No, you can add another name to that. Austin Rivers also. He was another guy who just suddenly just didn't know where he was supposed to be. And granted, I mean, we could hitch the horse to the wagon of saying these guys are past their prime, so to say, or they're veterans that have been replaced by younger people, or all the et cetera. You can add that in. You can say, oh, as we had an off the screen conversation about Ev being a sieve on defense, and like that was the stickler. Oh, he doesn't play, or he's soft. Which I'm not buying these narratives. You watch the game. There's a use for mostly any player. You have a bench full of players for a reason. Sometimes you need that depth, especially when you got to call upon guys on guys when other guys are not performing. And we've seen lapses of the Obies not playing when the guy ahead of him is not playing well, and Obi is striving very well. Or in the case with Ev, needing some shooting. We've needed shooting, like we're making a sniper movie. That's how much shooting we've needed for the longest time, and they refuse to put the guy into the game, at least in pockets, that owns the records for the Knicks and was, as he stated, was third best 3-point shooter during his hiatus. His height, I should say, before his hiatus. So you've got elements of guys that if you play them at least in pockets or in opportunities, when you just got to pivot a little bit, we use that word pivot a lot, just to pivot a little bit to actually make an adjustment to help win games. And I think anyone who doesn't believe Ev could help you win games by shooting, if you're playing in a system that allows a guy like him to get open looks, there's a couple plays when we go back to the Miami series and we just see Brunson goes in deep because he can't pass the Hart. Then the flare out to the 3-point line went to Grimes. And no offense to Grimes, he's not ready for that limelight right now. Those are shots when I think back on, you couldn't give Ev any of those shots. You can't give him a couple minutes in the Miami series. We saw Spoelstra allow, Duncan Robinson, who was buried on the bench for the longest time for his inefficiencies. And suddenly he finds a way of getting this guy into the game. And it helped. He helped beat us. That's really what it comes down to. Not really shocked. The Tom has a certain arrogance. I think it's been a label he's had for a long time, my way or the highway. And, I can respect that to a degree. But if it's about winning, then your ego has to go take a seat. As a coach, I know you probably have egos bigger than players. Some of them do. But in the same thought, it's like when you see that something's not working and it's to the detriment of the team and you're not winning and you have an answer or maybe a possible solution, the fact that people believe that Ev, he's terrible on defense, he should be buried on the bench and never see a minute. Then watch when FIBA comes around and this dude probably lights up the FIBA tournament, and now everybody's going to say, he can play. Yeah. I mean, not to say like Frank Ntilikina. I mean, he also played great in FIBA too. But it's like you can't say that these guys can't get some minutes in situations where what they're really good at or great at cannot be utilized. And I think that's what we're seeing. The coach hell-bent on saying, I don't like this player. I don't have to answer to this player. And, we've seen it with Derrick Rose even. I mean, Derrick is not vocal. But there was at one point, I think it was last year or maybe prior, where Derrick says, I don't know where I stand on this team. He's also come out and said it. Now we're hearing Fournier kind of, be a voice to him also, saying that we both looked at each other and said, what are we even doing here? So Derrick was in a little bit of a fog under Tibbs also. He's like, Like Tibbs didn't talk to him. I don't know if you guys recall that, but it was like
Yeah.
Tibbs did not talk to him even to address why he was not getting minutes anymore. And he says, I don't know where I'm, for a guy who's a former MVP and a favorite of the coach, to not know his place is speaking volumes about this coach. And I know what's good about Tibbs. I also know what's not good about him. And I think there's a lot of bad that's being covered by a lot of good of certain players. Like I said, I believe Brunson is making this look a lot. You know, what he put lipstick on a pig. I think he's working for Maybelline. He's made this pig beautiful. And because of that, I think that's why people are like, oh, it's working. No, it's not. They're winning, but it's not working. We're talking about, are you playing to always be a team that gives out full effort and become a mid-team that's always finishing in the fourth or fifth spot? Or are you playing to win a championship? Right now, when you look at the Knicks front office, they look like they're in on keeping this guy around for a little bit. And if Knicks fans want a championship, then he's got to open his playbook up. It can't be about defense only in an offensive league. This league is all about putting up points. I always say the league has always been about putting up points. You know, at the end of the game, it's who has more points. It's never been about who defended well. Who has more points? And if you can't get a bucket or buckets, think about the margin that the Knicks lost by in all those games. There was one blowout.
Yeah, it was close.
All the rest of them came down to not being able to hit a damn shot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking like 10 shots. We're talking about dudes can get 2 buckets, 2 to 3 buckets in an NBA in a professional league. The Knicks could not get 3 buckets, but people are telling me Ev needs to sit on the bench. An offensive dude needs to sit on the bench when your margin was 3 to 5 points almost every damn game. And guess what that guy does? Let's just guess what he does. He hits 3 points. Space the floor. Brunson can operate, but we don't care about space in New York. The Knicks don't care about space unless it's like, Space Ghost, Star Wars, Star Trek. That's the only time we give a damn about space in the Knicks, because other than that, that dude is relying on guys to excel at being ISO players. And if you can't ISO, then you better be a 3-and-D defender or a defender. I shouldn't even say a 3-and-D. You have to be a defender. So he wants the Allen Iverson school of Larry Brown. One guy can score, and the rest of you just need to do the dirty work. Because other than that, you would be seeing him say, oh, let's open up the floor and try to get some motion offense or do something different. And you got inefficient players. There's one efficient player on the Knicks, and that's Jalen Brunson. Think about what I mean. There's not a ton of guys that are killing it. Julius can get right. RJ is not they're not efficient players at times, especially from where you need them from, which is the arc. And we had one shooter, and this dude would not play him.
Yeah, that's Hey, Joe.
Something. I'm just sitting here thinking while you were talking about all this, and great points, all of them. A really good take. But I'm just thinking back to the old times, and we're all of similar age. I'm probably older than both of you, but defense wins championships. And that was something in football and something in basketball that was touted. Defense wins championships, and that's just not true anymore. And unfortunately, we are living in a model and a coach that is touting an outdated truth. It's no longer a truth. So I agree with you. It's whether both sports turned around and went the offensive route or promoted the offensive route or changed routes to make the game more enjoyable, whatever reason, they're both offensive leagues right now. So I agree completely with you. So are we building a great team for the 90s? Yeah, we're building a great team for the 90s. Are we building a great team for now? Highly debatable. So, yeah, I was just thinking about that while you were kind of going on. We're in an outdated philosophy. Yeah, we have some nice players. We have some really nice players. We have some draft picks. We have all of that stuff. However, we have somebody that needs to move on. We need a fresh voice. And we talked about this last week. I think that players that we have are translatable to someone else's system because they do bring value in different areas.
Wow.
It's just the key guys need to be different. The focus of the
Yeah.
team needs to be different.
Mhm.
Those other guys can perform great roles and start and get minutes and stuff like that. But yeah,
Yeah, it's been tough to watch. I mean, it's hard to pick on a team and a coach that's. I mean, they're not winning championships, but they've been 2 out of his 3 seasons here. They've been good,
yeah.
right? So it's hard. It's hard to look at that and say, when we've had nothing like that for so long, it's hard to look at that and say, we need to move on from this guy. And I understand that line of thinking by a lot of people. But I mean, I bring up Mark Jackson losing his job. Now, there were other factors involved why he lost his job, but still, Mark Jackson built the Warriors, got them, and then Steve Kerr came in as Mariano Rivera and got them closed it for them, right? Like he was there, he was remote. So, you have that example. And it's been shown there's been examples of this in the past as well. When Pat Riley first started winning with the Lakers, he took over for somebody and then he finished it off and got them, to win the championship. Like we've seen this before in other sports, famously as well in football. When John Gruden took over for Tony Dungy in Tampa Bay, he won the Super Bowl for them. Like this has been something that we've seen in other sports where a guy could be a great coach for the time, but to get them to that next level, you need a different voice. You need a clear perspective. Definitely. And a guy who maybe can take a little bit of what he's doing, what Tibbs is doing, and sprinkle in a little of his own flavor, to get them to get them.
You're right. It is a hard thing because I don't know about you, but I've really enjoyed watching playoff basketball. Holding my breath.
Yeah.
At the end of games, that pulse that goes through you when you're in a game that matters. And I missed that. And I'm grateful that that's gotten brought back the last 2 out of 3 years. Now, granted, the results weren't what we wanted them to be, but yeah, there is a good foundation here that somebody could come in and tweak and maybe be a little bit more flexible, bring a different offensive philosophy, maybe notice some possibilities with players that are being ignored. There are some people on that team that have more to their game. Grimes, one of them. Grimes needs someone to nurture him. He has more to his game than just sitting in the corner and jacking up threes and playing defense. I've seen too much to think otherwise. But yeah, the scary thing is, I mentioned this last week, if they go on a run, do they re-sign him? And what does that look like? Do they re-sign Tibbs?
I mean, that's the scary thing to think about.
He's got a relationship with Rose. He's got a relationship with Brunson, long-standing relationship with Brunson. As optimistic as I could be at times, I might be screaming on the show that follows that. Like that whole Joe's really mellow thing will pretty much go out the window.
You take out the mask, like, no, that's
yeah.
It's scary. It's scary. That's one of my fears is watching. Like I said, I'm not saying Obi was going to be a superstar or anything like that. It's just we are canceling out talent based on this guy, and that's the thing that kind of, Would it be a great thing? I mean, no offense. I'm a Knick fan. I used to follow Obi on IG, and I've unfollowed him. I'm about that life. I'm a Knick fan. I cheered for you while we were here. You're not in uniform. I don't give a damn about you. But, however, it's not going to look great. It's not going to look great if our rivalry takes this homegrown. It's not the homegrown that some people talk about. They're the real homegrown. And he goes there and flourishes in Indiana. It's going to be really ugly in New York. And it's a possibility that might happen because that dude, it wasn't like he was lacking talent. No. He was lacking time. So if he goes and he becomes a guy that gets you, if he gets you 19-7.
I called 16-8.
The Knicks couldn't use those numbers coming off the bench on a steady dose of those numbers. the I know the belief in this world is that high percentage shots are 3-point shots, which is garbage. It's really when you get to the rim. It's always been to the rim. It's always been the paint. Those are the high percentage. Steph just annihilated the theory because he just is once in a lifetime shooter. But
Exactly.
guys like Obi that can get to the rack, get to their spot when they feel like if they're athletically gifted enough, they cause havoc for defense. Look at Brunson. He I mean, when you think about Miami, there's two guys that butchered Miami, and Jalen Brunson was one of them. The other guy was the MVP or former MVP or the finals MVP, whatever you want to call Jokic. When you can get into the paint, you cause a lot of problems. And that's what I'm looking at. Like we're trading out erratic shooters. No offense to Quickly and those guys, but you're relying on that over a guy like Obi who's athletic enough that you can maybe, if you made him a little stronger, you ran a little couple plays for him to get to the paint, you develop a player. This is what I'm worried about when looking at this coach. Do we start also handing off players not knowing what they're capable of? Someone brought up a point. They was like, well, is Ev mad because in practice he might be busting some of these dudes that are staying, that are playing ahead of him? You have to wonder that. We don't see the practices. If I'm beating you in practice and you're starting ahead of me, I'm gonna have a problem with it. Who knows what's going on in that dynamic, because it's based on favoritism more than making sense of a game. Julius there's been times where that dude should have just never been in a game. He should have just been on the bench, taking his licks and saying, you don't got it tonight, bud, and it's fine. Everybody don't have it every night. Every coach has sought a key player. Did Michael Jordan not come to Doug Collins and said, do you not believe in me anymore? Because you took me out. You don't look like you believe that I can go and function. But we have a guy in New York who's never won but one thing, which is an MIP, and that coach will not discipline him. He will not sit him. So who do we know? If Obi was busting, and Eric knows upset as well, as Tom Thibodeau doesn't like athletes. I mean, the same thing is like, was he busting Julius's, arse in practice? And all of a sudden now he can't, he couldn't get any minutes. So that's the thing I'm worried about. The connection with this office being too close. The nepotism is a scary thing. It works when it's great for connecting. If you can get key people that, great players, which we've not seen them do yet. But what we've seen them is hook up their friends and hook up everybody they know that they're cool with. But that's the business. That's the basketball business, but not the business of basketball. I would say there's two different things. There's the basketball business and the business of basketball. The business of basketball is about winning a championship. Basketball business is about the money. So you got to look at those dynamics. Are we in basketball business or in the business of basketball when you look at this front office? That's a great question to be asked.
Well, we know historically I can answer that question. The way the Knicks have operated throughout all of our lifetimes, pretty much. Yeah. Like it's been more about, for me, and for what we've seen, it's been more about, getting in the playoffs, keeping the building filled. It's been more about that.
Yeah.
Than at least in the last 25 years or so, I could say that. Mm-hmm. Just really, but the leadership was so bad, and Joe, you're not in these chats, but I have railed on Dolan like crazy in the chat with the other guys. Like I am not a fan of him at all. I can trace back everything when this franchise soured. I can trace it back to when he took over the team. Like it's been him. And I try so hard when I hear people say like, oh, look, he's not involved in basketball stuff, because in the back of my mind, I'm like, he's just not out in front of it anymore. But when you're an owner of a team, you're going to know what's going on. You're the one that's paying the bills. So you're going to know exactly what's going on. And if you feel like something needs to be done, you're going to speak up. Now, it might not be getting made public because this team now is very quiet. Like Knicks don't let anything out. They don't even let their team president speak to in a press conference, which is another thing I have railed against them for in the past. That's just ridiculous to me. But with knowing all of this and knowing how paranoid Dolan is about the media, he clearly, even if he's doing it like on his phone and sending messages and putting it away. Like he's doing stuff like that. So historically with the Knicks and with how things have been done since he's taken over, yeah, it's all about let's get another 4 games or let's get another 3 games at the Garden. Let's get a. He'll say it's not, but the moves they make. Perfect example is when they signed Fournier and that whole summer when they signed those guys. I mean, I liked signing Evan Fournier. I didn't like signing him for $18 million. Like, like to me, they had success and they were just trying to bridge it, and they could have saved that money, right? You could have saved that money and been like, whatever, wait till next year. We can sign other guys. We'll have more money to do things. We can absorb contracts. When you have that cap space, but they were like, no, we need to, improve the team. And again, I like Evan Fournier. I was happy with the signing. I just couldn't believe the number. So the Knicks have always kind of been that kind of franchise, but they I can always track it back to Dolan's ownership. And that's been my major issue. Now that's not going to change. So in my head, I have to work under that, with that in the back of my mind, saying, okay, he's probably not going to sell the team. So if I'm a fan of this team, I have to live with that and see where we can go. And I don't know, like when I hear things like this with the coach, and then you hear that Rose has free autonomy to get rid of him if he wants to, and you hear that Worldwide West was whispering in Dolan's ear that we should make a change. Like you hear all these things, and you're like, it's still a mess. Like there's so many things that they've done well, and then you hear something like this, and I'm like, why am I still invested in this team? I get to that point all the time. Like, why do I still do this? Why do I still get involved? Why do I still care so much? And I know the answer is because I'm a masochist. I like pain and suffering. That's the only reason I'm a Jets fan. I'm a Knicks fan. Clearly, I like pain.
That whole Jet thing going on too.
So clearly, I like it. Joe, you're a Falcons fan, so you could relate as well.
I put a good coat of paint on it. I call it loyalty.
Yeah. So I don't know, and I mean, like you said, Joe, I don't. Where are they going to trade him? Like, where would they trade him? Like you said, you feel like they're going to hold on to him to be part of a bigger deal.
Yeah.
So is that coming now?
If they're digging for somebody in the $40 to $50 million range, let's say they're really talking about something like that, something like Karl Anthony Towns or Joel Embiid or anybody else that's in that tier. You imagine RJ is going to be involved in that. That's 30 mil. You're going to need an Evan Fournier or somebody else to kind of help make up that difference, because you can't absorb the difference in what the key component in that deal is going to be, which is going to be usually a $30 million player and whatever's left there. And there's other pieces that have to be involved. So if they're going for a big fish attached to a big salary, they'll probably need Ev to make that work, because they don't have anybody that they can turn around and transfer over that amount of salary. Because you think about the other trade assets we have. Grimes is making nothing. Quickly's making nothing.
Right.
Obi was making nothing. The salaries on this team are Brunson. The salaries are Randall. And the salaries are RJ, and they're all making about the same thing, $30 million. So that's what I think they need that for. If they really think they're going to make some kind of a big move for somebody with a massive salary, as Zion Williamson, something like that. I personally don't think that deal's out there, and the deal isn't realistic. But I think they're hedging, keeping him around to potentiate some kind of deal like that. Because I think they know they're doing him dirty. I mean, Evan seems like a good guy. I know that they're not stupid. They know this isn't great for him. They know they made a mistake. It'd be better to move on and get him out of the locker room. So I think he's going to be there at the beginning of the season, and I think it's going to be ugly.
Well, since you brought it up,
Oh, Jesus.
There's been a lot of talk, I don't want to say smoke because I don't think it's smoke yet, but I think there's been a lot of talk, like the embers.
Canadian wildfire smoke.
Yeah, there's some embers. A little bit of the embers might be starting to burn. I don't want to say there's smoke yet, because this came up about Joel Embiid apparently, I don't want to say unhappy, but unsure of the direction of where the Sixers are going. And if James Harden leaves or they don't, whatever the case, this whole thing is crazy. But if that happens, then they might be more inclined to rebuild around, I guess, Tyrese Maxey and get draft picks for Embiid and then whatever, right? Like move on. And of course, because every player is linked to the Knicks, so this came up. And look, I'm going to be very frank and honest about this. I don't want him. And it's not because he's not a great player, because he is. He's fantastic. But there's things about him that bother me. And the first being, he's had foot troubles in the past. I know he's been good, but guys who are big and have foot troubles, they never really go away. And it's not going to get better as he progresses. Yeah. So, yeah. So for me, that's reason number one. Number two, he does not love the weight room. And that bothers me because as great as he is without it, in my head, I'm like, if this guy took care of his body, just give me a season where you take care of your body and let's see how good you can be. Let's see if your stamina increases. Let's see if you're not breaking down in the playoffs. Like there's all these things I would love to see because I think he's fantastic. Like he is a one of a kind offensive player. He can shoot from the outside. He can post you up inside. There's really no limitations to what he can do. How Jokic is kind of the point center. This guy is kind of just the scorer, like the mix. Obviously, Jokic can score, but this guy's kind of like a mix of offense where he can shoot from the outside, play inside, and dominate, put the ball on the floor. He's really fantastic. So from a game standpoint, yes, of course, it'd be crazy not to add him. But again, for the reasons I stated, plus the fact that he's going to be 30, he's 29, he's going to be 30 years old, I would not want to give up a big haul for him.
And that's what back issues.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah. So that's all wrapped up in a bow. Like I wouldn't want him. But let's just speak on it clearly. Ty, do you think this is realistic?
I think it's realistic in Nick's mind that they want it to be realistic. I don't think it's realistic when you look at. I go back to the same thing I've been kind of, pulling out the tiki lamp, walking down and saying about the Knicks assets. I don't think they're very good. When looking at what we have in our,
You mean the draft pick?
I just don't think we have assets. I don't think we have the assets that people think we have. I mean, yeah, in number wise, yeah, we have 20 first round picks coming up. We hear the whole narrative about that, and they're not going to be great. We have these ones that are protected. Those are not going to be great either. Now we're going back to the value of our players. When you poll people about who would you want off the Knicks, who is the superstar on the Knicks, and it's Jalen Brunson, and then there's a bunch of Tito's, if you let the world tell it. We don't have a second superstar on this team.
Jermaine.
No Jermaine. No. Take it personal. Just take it personal. You know how it is. Don't make me sing it. Take it personal. Because right now, we are our best player, if you wanted to, when they market the Knicks, is Julius Randle. And every Knicks fan, unless you're been dead for the last 3 years, they know what is going to happen and where his value does not lie, and it's in the postseason.
Right.
We want to talk about Joel Embiid's shortcomings of not getting out the second round. How about Julius not getting out the locker room, literally? I mean, because we've seen first rounds where he's just been horrendous. So say you are going to go after Embiid. Say he said, look, I want to go to the Knicks or whatever. Put together a package. They get word that the Knicks are in the running. Your package is going to be whatever picks that the Knicks have of their own, currently as constituted, which means that we've fallen religiously over the last 3 years in the 18-19 range, basically. That's what our picks have been. So we're not going to get worse. We're in mediocrityville. So when you're in mediocrityville and in the middle, your picks are going to be really outside of the damn lottery. So you're not going to get a top 10 or a top 5. Just get that out of your head. It's not going to happen. So if the boat's not sinking, but it's it's basically surviving on a couple of corks that are allowing it not to flood. This is what we're dealing with the Knicks. So you say, okay, well, we're going to give you 3 of our picks, the right to swap 2 others, so 5 altogether, and maybe we throw in a couple of conditionals, and we're going to build that around Julius Randle. I'm going to ask you, how soon do people hang up and say that you were on a payphone and in a phone booth that don't exist anymore? Because that's what the hell kind of response you're going to get from anybody who says, trade Joel Embiid for that package. That is ridiculous. So you go, oh, well, let's get a third team involved. Okay, get a third team involved. Who's giving up a huge asset to send to Philly to still get the packages we have? Gun to the head. Who's going to really trade for Julius Randle? I get it out the mind. I'm not talking about regular season Randle. Regular season R&R. That don't mean Rough Riders. It doesn't mean that. R&R. Who's going to really change for Randle? Think about this. That you're going to invest one of your top-notch talents for him, because we're talking regular season, dude, and nobody pays somebody for the regular season. They pay you to win them a title or to put asses in seats during the playoffs with the chances that you might can get them past at least a round in the playoffs. That dude is not that dude. So what package are the Knicks realistically? When I think about it, and you're saying whether it's real, your realistic target is Donovan Mitchell because he's got 2 more years and he can force his way into saying, I'm not resigning. That's the leverage the Knicks have on a talent like that. But to go a raw package because Embiid's upset, there's at least 10 teams ahead of the Knicks that can put together better packages. I don't think it's realistic. I think it feels great, and you're in conference, by the way. You're trading someone in conference. No. You might as well wait for either Giannis or you might as well wait for Donovan Mitchell because you're not getting an Embiid with what we got. People want RJ Barrett gone. Listen how people talk about RJ Barrett. They go, well, we'll send them Barrett. Did you hear how you talked about Barrett before while he was playing in New York? He's trash. He has no wiggle room. So how are you building around him? Mm-hmm. The value of the Knicks, we go back to the same top-end talk that I had before. We don't know. Obi got sold for 2 second rounders that were not great. They were some of the worst second rounders for a number 8 pick. And we're talking Embiid. We couldn't even facilitate the evening jack Indiana for 2 good second round picks for a guy who's one of the best athletes in the game. It wasn't like he's like, mediocre athlete. Always one of the best athletes in the NBA. And we got two second rounders for him. How are we going to do an Embiid trade? Somebody give me a package. I want to know the package is giving Embiid.
Yeah, especially when you think about the Gobert trade and when you start thinking about these other trades, that these packages that these players got that are nowhere near as good as Joel Embiid. I love DeJounte Murray, but another one, like he got a tremendous package too. The Spurs got for him. And like you look at those two, and you're kind of like, yeah, Embiid is an MVP, right? So you're gonna have to pony up a little bit more for him. You know what? A third team might not even do it. You might need it could be like a 4-team trade where you'd have to have, which is rare and barely ever happens. But that's the kind of thing it might take for him to end up in New York. It's. Again, the fact he's in Philly too is there's no chance. There is no shot of this happening. Joe, what do you think?
Okay, so I want to address our draft picks because I do think that some of them will be attractive to the outside, and I'll explain why. All right, so let's go from the bottom up. The Washington pick is trash. It's clown shoes. It's going to wind up being 2 seconds. That team's got no direction. It's nowhere. That is never going to turn out being a first
What's the
round.
protection on that one? I'm just.
I think it's 1 to 12.
1 to 12 or 1 to 13 or something like that.
Yeah.
All right.
1 to 12. And I think it's got 2 more years before it turns into 2 2s, and I don't see that team going anywhere. The Detroit pick, I think, will convey as a first-round draft pick. I think Detroit's going well. I don't think it's going to happen soon. The Dallas pick, unless if I don't think that that's going to portray into a serious pick. I don't think anybody looks at it as portraying into a serious pick. The Milwaukee pick is intriguing.
Yeah, that's the one.
The Milwaukee pick is definitely intriguing. Top 5 protected. But the Knicks picks and pick swaps with the Knicks are valuable, and I'll explain why. We've been healthy. This team has been blessed with really, really good health. We are an injury away from being a lottery team. We are not that solid that we can overcome an injury to Randall, to Brunson, or RJ. We've held this together. I mean, one of the things I like about Tibbs is he's won a lot of games with a good roster, and this is him playing people a lot of minutes and playing every game like it's the 7th game of the NBA Finals and all of that stuff. But we are not that good of a team. An injury can knock one of our picks into the lottery easy. And these things happen to teams. So pick swaps, they're not valued as much as first-round picks, but a pick swap with the Knicks is a kind of an attractive thing. Knowing that the wheel can come off and this team could look completely, completely different from a team that it could potentially win 50 games if completely healthy. So there's that. So I think the outside view of those picks are fine. The problem I see with this trade is, and most of the potential trades that have come out, is it's like a murderer's row of GMs. I mean, you're dealing with Daryl Morey. Do you guys remember the T-Mac negotiations? Tracy McGrady, dealing with him with Tracy McGrady and what that nonsense was like. He's going to want like everything. Jalen Brunson's going to have to be part of it. He's going to want all the picks. He's going to want, my sister. He's going to want my Atari 2600 and all the tapes I got in the basement. He's going to want my car. He's going to want that shirt you're wearing. He's going to want everything. So I don't see that ever happening. Like, I've seen what he's done with marginal players. I heard what he wanted for Tobias Harris. I know what he wants for James Harden. What is he going to want for a reigning MVP of the entire league? It's an impossibility. And even like talking about, all right, what are some of the other targets? Okay, there's, OG Anunoby. So you're staring down the battle of Masai Ujiri, excuse me. Another guy who is almost impossible to deal with. We had to deal with Danny Ainge, for Donovan Mitchell. It's like a murderer's row of GMs that we have to get through to get anything done. I almost wish like there was a David Kahn. Remember David Kahn? That guy was running Minnesota forever. Some guy who's got like an all-star level talent, really doesn't know what he's doing. Like he lied his way through the interview to get the job. Like we need somebody like that. But I don't see an Embiid thing. I agree with you, Eric. I think it's very, very risky. I think it sounds like a slam dunk off the top of it, reigning MVP, all of that stuff. But tale of his prime, signed well, probably past his time for a lot of money. The injury problems are there. And it's not a center's league anymore. Having a dominant big man meant a lot once, and I don't think it just means as much. I think having an all NBA wing makes a bigger difference. So the problem is, I don't think there's a trade out there for us, man. I think we keep on waiting for this thing to happen. And I'm really glad that we've accumulated all these picks. I'm really glad that we're in the position that we're in, that we're not trading these things away. I don't see anything out there, man. And I definitely don't see an Embiid trade. So that's why
I'm scared that it's going to be Zion, and not because I don't think he's
Zion than Embiid.
Well, age being the main for me, that would be the main reason why. Like he's just younger. And it would be but I don't trust him to be able to walk past like a White Castle and
Crazy.
not, like and not gain like 50 pounds just looking at a box of onion rings. Like I can't, I can't trust that with him. So that's the thing. And with all the off the court stuff that's going on with him now too, it's like, Jesus, where does this? I mean,
It's your open
it's
voice
just
registry.
yeah, it's crazy. But it's like he's the guy. For some reason, I just keep coming back to him because he's younger. Um, he's been pretty visible from the beginning about not wanting to be in New Orleans. He's talked glowingly about playing in New York. Um, his best friend is on the team already. Like, there's a lot of reasons why I could see him ending up with the Knicks. And again, I don't want him either for the reasons I've already stated. But he's the guy I see coming. I don't see Towns because of the Supermax. I don't think the Knicks will ever be able to pull off a trade to have enough value in it to get Towns here. And again, I'm a fan of his talent.
That's
He's
a
like
trade you
Randall.
would need Fournier for.
Yeah, and him up here, I don't. He talks like he's like people gonna say I changed the game, and I'm like, dude, you can't even change your underwear sometimes. Like, what are we talking about? Like, what? Like, what are we doing? So there's just things like that with when it comes to these guys that are out there. And then I always say this: if you have a great player, most teams you're not going to get rid of him. So all these guys who we might possibly get, there's problems. There's some kind of problem, whether they're head cases, right? Whether they're whatever the case may be. It's like there's problems. Like LeBron never said he wanted to leave anywhere. He just went. Like he never verbally said, "I'm not happy here. I want out." He would just wait till it was time to go and go. Like that. That's what he did. So these other guys, like I love Kevin Durant, but he's a head case too. Like I can't even, I love him as a player on the court. I would take him 10 times out of 10. Love the guy.
Yeah.
But off the court, that dude is crazy too. Like there's something with these players I don't understand. Yeah, it's the generation. It's gotta be, and you're taking that in. If you trade for these guys, you are accepting that into your locker room and saying, "We're going with you." And there's nobody out there. Even Donovan Mitchell, like I like him, but after what I just saw in the playoffs and the last 2 years now, even the last season in Utah, and then this last year, I'm kind of like, what's up with you too? Like he should have been the best player in our playoff series. Like there's
absolutely.
When you look at talent and athleticism combined, he was the best player on the floor. But he rarely showed up. So again, all the players that are linked to the Knicks, I'm kind of like, I don't.
And with Donovan Mitchell too, I mean, he's someone that depends on their athleticism, and he'll be 2 more years further into his prime. Do we want him at that point? Do we want him at 27 compared to 29? Do we want him at 29?
I think he'll
give up a boatload of assets.
I think the thing with Donovan Mitchell, and that's why I brought him up, not because I'm like this big Donovan Mitchell fan and want him. Like I said, he got the burn notice 2 years in a row from Jalen Brunson. So I felt no reason to ever bring him here in that regard. But we are talking about talent acquisition. Something that the Knicks do lack is having a bona fide number 2. Julius could be number 3, I guess, to a degree. I think RJ is probably more suited to be a number 3 if he's on a great team. Mitchell is the most obtainable, and he does fit the bill of being probably the most talented person available in the next 2 years that you could possibly get. That's the reason why I link him to the Knicks. As far as I think the odds are better that you can get him and add him to the core that you already have without losing a lot. Say Cleveland said, well, he's in his final year. He's like, look, I'm not going to resign. with you, the Knicks could put together a package. Literally, they could get that guy in the Garden that would not probably kill your whole entire franchise because the leverage is different. When you're going from a raw point of Embiid, you don't have that extra player. You don't. It's Brunson and then all your picks. That's really what you're going to get. And why would Philly not want him? I mean, as Knicks fans, we got to be realistic sometimes on what we have and what other teams need. If you're running another team, you're not just going to take, Julius Randle and RJ and a couple picks for an MVP caliber talent. That's not going to work. Mitchell is gettable. When you think about it alone, you would have one of the smallest backcourts, which would drive people crazy on defense. Nobody would want to see it. But would you rather add Donovan Mitchell to Brunson, possibly keep RJ, maybe move off of Randall, get an asset from him for him? He's coming to the last end of his contract instead of re-signing him, and you build out that way. That team probably is more fun and might get you past the second round, maybe. But you're not getting one of these other guys. Who else are you going? You're not going to trade. Who are you going to trade for Paul George? That's ridiculous. OG Anunoby to give up a whole farm for a guy who's.
What did they want? 3 firsts for him, right? Was it 3?
Someone said 6 at one point or something. Messiah Ujiri had lost his damn mind. Is what he's done. There's nobody. I don't know what beer he's drinking up in Canada or the Canadian bacon. I don't give a damn what nobody's getting.
He's another guy that ate our lunch though in the Bogdanovic trade.
Well, he ate Dolan's lunch. Dolan sent him a whole
And the Melo trade. He was in Denver with the Melo trade.
And the Bargnani trade.
And the Bargnani trade.
He just put him on a hibachi grill. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, if you want to feel happy, Jamal Murray's supposed to be a Knick. Okay, that would make you feel happy. Anyway, we move forward, and this is all because we give up picks. The Knicks don't have, and I've been, it's been bothering me to even say this, but it's just come to the realization. The Knicks had one punch, and I don't think they got a second punch. It's bugging me out to watch it. I'm like, you hit on Brunson, and Brunson is a bona fide star. I'm not going to say he's a superstar. He's a bona fide star right now. I know that because of how much stuff he's cleaned up on the Knicks. So we're asking the Knicks now, you're building out this team. How? What are you going to do to build out to get Brunson in the same timeline he's on to get him a bona fide number 2? Because we know whether you want to put him on paper now, Julius is not that dude, and RJ's not that dude. So somebody's got to fall per sacrifice. So somebody's got to be sacrificed at the altar to get Jalen Brunson what is possibly a running mate.
Okay, so
who is that guy, and what assets do you have to give up, or how much assets do you have to get up to get that number 2 guy? And is there really a number 2 in the league right now available that you would love to give up all your assets to get next to Brunson? That's really the major question. All
right, so I got a question for both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the landscape and what you just said, and I don't disagree with anything you said, did we miss the boat on the Donovan Mitchell trade? Considering how Jalen Brunson panned out really nicely, picture RJ, Grimes, 4 or 5 picks. Did we miss the boat on that? Should we have taken that deal? Well, would we have beaten Miami with that team? Would we have gone to the Eastern Conference Finals? Would we have gone to the NBA Finals with that team? Would we have had a shot? Are we saying that we didn't do that deal because there's a better deal out there? But if we're honest with ourselves and we think that there's not a better deal out there on this timeline, did we miss the boat by not pulling the trigger on that deal?
I in my opinion, I think so to a degree, because I don't see the second move right now. That's the biggest question. It's like you're not developing. Clearly, you're not developing your current roster. You're just hoping that they just spring into action one day and RJ becomes an all-star because of the work he put in during the summer, and you hope that quickly becomes an all-star. He did it in Grimes, et cetera, et cetera. So you're banking on those guys doing self-development, and that they're going to come into camp and they're going to surprise you with their progress, their personal progress on their games. If you're working on to that kind of theory, then it's a long game as opposed to a short game. But you have a short-term coach who's believing in the short game, which is I want to win now. You've got a guy in Brunson who's a win now player also. You got a guy like Julius. He's really a win now player. I mean, granted, we don't trust his winning ability, but he's still in that category of a win now player. Now, out of those players, out of that second player, which is Julius, we realize that's a dysfunction. It's not going to work. So you had to ask, when do you pull the trigger to get something that works here that you can maybe pray that if these two guys click, not depending on, your coach don't develop people like that. But you need a guy who's instantaneously going to come in with Brunson and click. A guy like Mitchell was probably the answer because you are not doing a long-term build. You are doing an instant milk build. So now you're going to say, how long do we waste Brunson? And how long before we're able to trade Julius, which you're probably not going to be able to trade that dude until he's getting towards the end of his contract. So you're stuck. So, if we to revisit the way they structured this team, their belief system from what we can tell from the outside looking in, you probably do that trade because you're probably not getting – you would have got past Miami with Donovan Mitchell and Brunson. I do believe that because you had a second stud that can score. So it's not like you had to worry about him not showing up in key moments or couldn't get a bucket or couldn't get to the paint like what we've seen with the rest of the team. Like it would have been pretty hard for them to actually plan against somebody like Brunson and Donovan Mitchell. You can't guard both of those guys, but we're asking, would it made more sense to probably go get the dude that can probably help you now and live with it? Maybe you do that trade. I personally would have never done that trade. I would have never sacrificed because I believe in longer builds than what we're doing in developing your players. But looking now, you do that deal because you're not going to develop RJ. You're not developing Grimes. These guys are just coming in, and Thibodeau loves plug and play guys, so he loves veterans. He's expecting that these young guys are just going to become veterans all of a sudden. You know what you're supposed to be doing. Come in, and play. And they need time. They need development. And this organization has been guilty for the last 5-6 years of trying to serve two masters. And you can't serve two. You're either playing for the playoffs, you got a championship caliber roster, or you are rebuilding through the draft and developing your talent, which we more or less need the latter as opposed to the aforementioned, in my opinion.
The game's going to tell you where you need to go. All right, Joe, go.
I think again, when this deal fell through, I was happy it fell through, and I think a lot of us justified that. Okay, we really need two moves, and what they're asking for is crazy and everything like that. But again, I'm looking out there, and I don't see the first move, let alone two moves. I don't see them at all. So again, it begs the question, like I was like, good, screw this. We don't need him, not for that price, blah, blah, blah. But I'm looking at that deal a little bit differently now. Like maybe that was our deal.
So we're talking about, I'm sorry, my Wi-Fi kicked out. That's why I disappeared.
What I brought up is we were talking and Tyler said maybe our most attainable person is Donovan Mitchell.
Yes.
Right, because there's nothing else out there. So I countered with, looking at the barren wasteland that's around us, right, of possibilities that we were going to kind of go away from that deal in lieu of. Did we miss the boat on the Donovan Mitchell trade? Was that really the trade? The way that Brunson panned out, adding Donovan Mitchell into that for RJ, Grimes, and let's say 5 picks. I think that's what they were talking about, right? Should we have made that deal? I think it's a valid question. As much as I railed against it when it happened, what does that deal look like now as we're sitting here going, there's nothing out there?
Can I add one thing before?
Yeah.
Now looking back at what they did with Obi, I would trade him for Donovan Mitchell and put him in a package. Same thing, what might happen with Quickly, being that you probably don't want to pay him, and you've already brought in 5 other guards. So he's going to get $20 million. You probably got to trade him too. So the third person is you're asking, would you want it to really include RJ in that three? Because you're clearly going to sacrifice two of the three guys that would have been in those packages anyway. Obi's whatever you got for 2 Snicker bars, and quickly probably won't. You're going to have to extend him and then trade him, and that's probably not going to be for maybe an equal or equal talent. It won't be for talent probably. You probably got to add picks into him also. So when you look at the totality of the package, if you are saying now and you go revisit back, say, well, we traded Obi for these 2 Snicker bars, so would it have been better if we just included him and Donovan if we never plan on developing him or playing him at all? Same thing with Quickly. If we're going to bring in Dante and in Josh Hart, then you might as well have traded them.
I don't think they wanted those. I think that the final deal was Grimes. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you know what the final deal was, Eric?
No, go ahead. I
thought it was RJ, Grimes, and 5 ones. And
I'm just waiting.
Had Grimes in.
Because I have my.
I don't think that they would have substituted RJ out for some combination of Quickly and Obi.
I think at one point they said, well, because it's all speculation now because we really don't know. But
they said they wanted all
RJ to make the salaries work too.
I think it was Mitch. The first package was Mitch, RJ, Grimes, and Obi, or Quickly, one of the two.
But that was like
that was initial before the reporting started.
Yeah.
They said that Leon was willing to throw in those guys. What stopped the trade was the picks. They didn't want to give up the picks. They were willing to give up the talent, but not the picks. Because this regime, I think it's Brock Howard, values these draft picks. They're holding them like they're the holy grail. So I'm saying, like, if they are going to give up on these guys that we covered as fans, saying, oh, well, we're waiting for Obi to blow, we're waiting for IQ to blow, and they have no intention on doing this, that they're planning on giving these guys away or letting them walk or whatever the story is, then you may as well have traded them for Donovan Mitchell, who wanted to be here, who is an excellent talent. I'm not going to trash him. He's not garbage by any means. But he might not be a 1. That's what he probably is not. He's probably a 1.
It's a 1B.
1B type talent, which next to Brunson, that's all you want.
Yeah,
you want a 1B talent. That's what you want. So revisionist wise, you might as well give it to him. If you the Obi thing should bother any. I don't care if you don't like Obi. It's the asset. That's the number 8 pick, and you got 2 of the worst picks from a team because you refused to play him 20 minutes. This is what this all comes down to.
Playing him 20 minutes would have been a mistake, man. He wouldn't have fit in with what they're doing for 20 minutes.
He wouldn't, but that's the problem. You don't draft him then.
No, you don't draft him in the first.
It's screwed. And this is about
you draft Halliburton, especially considering who your guards were at the time. You had nobody. You had nobody at the point.
That's where I was going. That's where I was going to go. You guys were talking. I don't think the Mitchell deal was the deal. I think they screwed up by keeping Randall and extending him the year before they had to. Yeah. And if they didn't do that, had he come off of last season, they would have been like, yeah, that season was a fluke because last season he was trash. Not trash, but he wasn't as good as he was the year before. So you could have gotten away with letting him walk then. And then this year, I mean, you could have started Obi. You still could have gotten Brunson if you wanted to. You could have gone with that team. Would have been a more fun team, a more athletic team, a team that fans would have loved to watch. It really stems off of that because if the Randall having that season and then them deciding to extend him pushed the timeline up so fast.
Yeah.
Because before that, it would have been we drafted RJ, we drafted Obi, we drafted Quickly. Let's grow with these guys. Let's see what we have. But Randall having that season pushed everything to the forefront. It's like, all right, now we have to go because this guy apparently is an all-NBA player. So we have to do something about that. We have to build around him. He's our guy. And they still see him that way because I don't ever hear about him in a trade scenario. I don't even hear his name mentioned. So he's their guy. Like, he's the guy, guys. We keep saying we want this other player. He's the guy for them right now. That's it. There's no other way around it. And if we want to go back to the Mitchell trade, I have said this from the beginning, just the way the negotiations wound up going, Ainge was never traded him here. the Knicks could have included everything under the sun. Donovan Mitchell would never be a Knick because two reasons. One, he wanted to be here, and Ainge did not want to trade him where he wanted to be.
Yeah.
And two, it would have, no matter what package they would have gotten, it never would have been enough for Danny Ainge.
Right.
So I don't even look at it anymore as that. Like, to me, all the stuff that we heard, all the packages that we heard thrown around during the time, I was like, yeah, okay, they're building to something. But when the last offer was made and they were like, no, I was like, well, there's nothing else for the Knicks to give. You never wanted to trade him here.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. He was never going to be a Knick.
No.
There's no way that was happening. And Ainge, let's be honest, he's a Celtic, right?
Yeah.
Not going to trade him to the Knicks.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. So, that's my take on that. I do now, looking back, like you said, if hindsight's 2020 and the way things are now, should they have done that trade? Maybe. I mean, if that was really on the table, sure.
Mhm.
You could have still, like we said last year, you would have Brunson and Mitchell backcourt. Yes, defensively it would have been a mess, but him and Garland weren't much better. Like, him and Garland are pretty similar. They're not, neither one of those a great defensive player either, and they won almost 50 games or something like that. So I don't think it would have been a big deal. Yes, they have Evan Mobley. That's kind of a different thing, but I think Randall's the guy. That's how I have to look at it right now. No matter how much it hates me and pains me to say, he is their star.
He is.
That's it. It's him and Brunson until further notice, and that's how the team is operating. They didn't do anything this summer. What did they do? They traded their backup power forward. They haven't addressed it. So clearly they're fine with playing him 38, 40 minutes again. That's what they're doing. That's who they're rolling with. And we have to hope, beyond hope, that it clicks for this dude, or that he stays on his meds, or that he goes and sees a sports psychologist. I don't know, but I just read the other day that one of the guys who was kind of his guy he spoke to, they got rid of, or they didn't keep.
His Yoda's gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a witch doctor wave the magic chicken foot on.
So I mean, that's it. That's what we have right now, and it's painful to say.
Fuck you,
but until there's a guy who clearly goes, I want out and I want to go to New York.
They're stuck. They're stuck.
Yeah,
they're stuck. That was the thing with me. Like I said, it was, you come to reality some days, and I'm sitting here watching. I'm like, they don't have another move. It's like, I don't play chess, but I know you got to be so many moves ahead in chess. Yeah. I'm like, they're playing checkers, but they're just showing New York fans chess pieces, because I'm like, there is no move. There's no move that pushes this forward. If they go all in on OG Anunoby, that's not a move. That's not the move. That move, you're saying, oh, well, we don't like RJ. All right, well, that's fine. But OG's not RJ either. He's not going to come in and give you games where you go, here's the ball.
Yeah, he doesn't have 40 point, 50 point.
He's not going to have it. And RJ, albeit efficient, at least he has that level that he can go to at times where he shocks you. We're like, well, what the hell is it at for every game we want it? But if you think OG is going to come in because he plays defense better than RJ, then he's going to all of a sudden be that third Chris Middleton type that's going to get you 45 in one night, and he stopped the guy ahead. He's not Kawhi Leonard, not from what I've seen. I mean, he doesn't even. And our team would be slower. He's not a fast moving guy. He looks like RJ, just better defense in my opinion, and probably not wired to score. And how this Knicks team is built around two basic players that are isolation players. You do need a third guy who's capable of saying, when they don't have it, I can carry the team, because the offense is not going to change. The offense is not going to change. Grimes should be a featured player in the second unit. And we've realized that unless somebody likes him a lot and believes they should feed him, he's not going to eat. He's not going to eat. Quickly's proven that he won't feed anybody sometimes, because he wants to prove that he should be a starting point guard. He is also in a contract year. He's calling his own number in a lot of shots. he's got the capability to play some point. I think he could probably be a great combo guard, maybe like Jamal Crawford. I think he has the capability of being that type of player. But yeah, we playing checkers in New York. I hate to even, because there's no other move. There's no move that doesn't involve sacrificing a lot for a little, and it won't push the needle ahead. Because you're better off waiting. I hate to say it. You better wait till Donovan becomes 2 years, another year maybe, where he can leverage himself out of Cleveland. I mean, what else you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, it's not even like I said. Like we're hearing about Zion already, and he's not even like that's not even a short thing, right? Like even if he were to come here, it's not a short thing. So they don't have. Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
I try to look for silver linings that at least they haven't pulled all their chips in the middle for something stupid. Like
that's the one thing they've
looking for a silver lining.
Yeah.
They've
refrained from doing that move where you're the Bargnani trade. Like they've refrained from doing something like that where you're like, what the hell was that? Yeah. Yes, that I will give them that.
I'll give them. It seems like, and I brought this up last week. Like I'm in Western New York. I'm a Falcons fan, but I'm right in the middle of Bills country. And I follow the team. You can't help not do it. The best thing they have going for them for a small market team is they have alignment of vision between coaching and the GM. And after all of the bad decisions that have happened in the beginning between drafting Obi, Kemba Walker, and giving $74 million to Fournier, who I like as a player but was never a fit, at least there seems to be some alignment with their decisions, and I'm going to be at least somewhat grateful for that, and they haven't done anything really stupid. So those are the silver linings that I see, but the problem is I don't see the deal that brings hope that takes us to the next level.
No,
that's the concern.
My thing, I mean, if it were up to me, and I've said this many times, I would trade everyone and start scratch. I would let's do it. I'm there. Let's do it.
Line the ball up in the front yard with a lemonade.
Yep. I mean, even crazy as it sounds, because I do love him and he was a great signing. I'd even trade Brunson. Go ahead. Give me the best offer you can for him. Give me the picks. I want picks. I don't want players. I want picks. Give me draft picks. That's what I want. They need. Go ahead. What?
I was about to say, can we address the coach CR 617? He asked if we would question now that Embiid's a pipe dream. What is y'all opinion on circling back to Cat? I'm not a kitty cat lover, so no pun intended.
I like Cat with a different coach.
I'm gonna let that go, Ty. I'm not gonna go ahead and let that go.
I like Cat with a different coach. I think that he'll be used for spacings here at $50 million a year. They'll put him out on the 3-point line to try to create space. I don't think they'll use him right. I don't think that this coaching staff would know how to get the best out of Karl Anthony Towns.
It didn't work with different coach the first time.
I know. Different coach, I could probably get behind that a little bit, especially considering the lack of alternative options. I just don't think you're going to get that. This coach is going to get the most out of Karl Anthony Towns, who is a good talent.
Oh, he is. I've always said I love his talent. I think he's one of the most talented big men in the entire NBA. Yeah. But again, with him, for me, it's here. Like
it's wiring. He's going to need a coach that gets in his ear.
That would work.
And it has to be that kind of coach, and it has to be and I know this guy's not the favorite guy, but it would have to probably be like a Mark Jackson type that can be, relatable to him. It's got to be somebody he buys into that say, hey, you're better than that. You're better. Because when you look at Steph Curry and you look at Klay Thompson, the years before they were even the Splash Brothers, it was Mark saying, you guys are the best shooters I've ever seen. and the confidence level change. You need that
Yeah, that's
that type of coach that can play the the psychological game and build up his character. Because I don't think that he needs confidence clearly because he's making these outlandish statements about his talent level. But I think he needs to have someone say, "Well, you say you want to be the best big man. You say you want to change the game. Then this is how you go about changing the game. Go out there and prove it. Go out and do X, Y, Z. That'll get you the game." Tom has no patience. We've seen that he doesn't have. He expects to have guys that came and did do their job and have read the reports and done their homework and know their assignments. And he's an autopilot coach. He believes that he's there to call a timeout when people really don't know what the hell they're doing. But he doesn't. I don't think he's coached up anybody on that team. From what I can see, his coaching schemes, when he calls a timeout, they don't work. You seen anything?
not.
You're like, oh, Tom's a great. He can execute out of the timeout. I've never felt that way.
This would, I mean, this would be worse than him being the coach.
Yeah, no, bro. Yeah,
that would be worse.
Coach is better off being the coach that's making a comment.
Dude, that would not be good.
Oh,
I do agree with his comment that Brunson and Cat would be pretty nasty in the pick and roll.
That would be. But we don't run pick and roll. They don't run pick and roll.
No, I'm just saying hypothetically.
Yeah,
Really
that's what I wanted them to do with Obi. I'm like, they could run pick and roll with Obi. They didn't do it. So, I mean, this is true too. Our GM does to be in name only, right? Like, because Leon Rose probably is the final decision maker. I think obviously he gets input from the 8,000 people that advise him because he has so many advisors. But yeah, I agree with. I don't think that the GM per se. Now, the one thing I would say that they're losing with Perry leaving is a guy who other teams really respected, and that's something that they're going to have to replace. So I think they will replace and they will hire a GM, or they're just going to promote the Greek guy. I always don't know his name, but him.
Garsh or whatever his name.
Yeah, something like that. I think he might be the one they just slided. I said they should just move Allen Houston. Poor guy's been GM of the Westchester Knicks for so long.
He's been marinating like that shot on the rim that was in Miami. Around.
Dude, give the guy the job already. If they're not responsible for making the decisions, just let him sit in. Thank you, Coach. Thank you for watching us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yes. Tell your friends. Tell your friends about us. We try and keep it real here. I mean, we don't, I'm not going to diss other shows, but I've seen some other shows and I feel like they just give lip service to things to get people to watch them. We don't do that here.
It's not hyperbole. We keep it real.
Yes. So, yeah, but it sucks. I mean, I don't know. I think we should all get on my plan and let's just trade everyone and do the rebuild.
At least we have all of our own picks.
You know what, Eric? I mean, as much as it's going to sour a lot of Knicks fans, because the thought alone, like Joe said, we've been in the playoffs 2 or 3 years, and it's been absolutely great to have something to cheer for and to not look like the insane asylum that we have looked like, or Arkham Asylum we've looked like for the last, I don't know how many damn years. I don't even want to think about it. How many years we've been just dysfunctional, and I get it, but there's dysfunction and mediocrity too, and stuck in the middle. That's dysfunctional in the NBA as well.
Yeah,
you got to be really bad, or you got to be really great. And we're seeing Oklahoma City as the prime example of what teams should watch or fan bases should watch. Because look what they've done. They went from having Kevin Durant, they went from having Russell Westbrook, and they went from having James Harden. All three are MVPs of this league at one point. And look what they have now. And they've gone through having Paul George and Melo come through, CP3 come through. They've had this whole menagerie of great superstar talent that have filtered through. And what do they have now? Probably one of the most promising young talent cores.
And mad draft capital.
And they play an exciting brand of basketball. He don't like nobody. I hope this ain't Craig in this guy. He's like, but the thing the thing is that it's stable and you can build or either organically or trade to get the right pieces to make that team function. Right now, the Knicks do not have a commodity other than Brunson that if you put him out on the market, you can get back a lot of stuff for.
Yeah.
You cannot put Julius out there. You're not getting back a bunch of stuff. RJ, you're not getting back a bunch of stuff. Grimes, maybe off of potential, but his contract is so small, he's not going to get you back a big name. So he's going to get you back draft capital at best. You go back to quickly, and as much people value quickly, what team needs a starting point guard? Probably none other than the Knicks over the last 50 years. Everybody else has that position outside of maybe Toronto not like Schroeder and may want quickly. But name me another team that needs a point guard right now. I'll wait for it. I don't know if
Bulls.
Bulls?
Because Alonzo.
That's if Ball doesn't come back, clearly. But, the Bulls and who else needs a point guard? Bulls, Toronto, maybe. They would give quickly a bag for $20+ million and have him be a starter.
Minnesota doesn't have a point guard, you're right. And Washington hasn't had a point guard forever. I know that they just signed Tyus Jones, or they got Tyus Jones, but
I would take Tyus over.
Back up.
I take Tyus over quickly.
I think Tyus Jones is going to make that leap. He's going to be the Brunson. He's going to be Brunson. What Brunson was for us, I think Tyus Jones is going to.
I think Washington will look a lot better after the Beal trade and those other pieces have moved in. Although, we need them to be efficient. I think that Jones trade will be very under the radar, but it's going to be really good.
I'm for like Ty. We've talked. I love OKC, so that model is exactly what I would do. I mean, they have Giddey, Alexander, Chet. I mean, I'm forgetting the other guy who.
Dort.
Yep.
Who's come around to being something, which I never would have thought he would have been anything.
No. Sam Presti's the real star of that team.
Poku, whatever his name is.
Yeah, I mean, they have so much young talent. That's the thing. Like, they're not going to be able to keep it all, obviously. They're not a big market, and I don't think they're going to want to be in luxury tax land. But when it comes time for those decisions to be made, they're going to be able to get, like they always do, Presti always gets picked back. And they're going to be able to – they're kind of like, to me, they're like the Oakland A's of the NBA.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
A money ball. Yeah, they kind of have to do that. But Presti he's the guy I wanted them to drag when they made the Leon Rose move. After they moved on from Phil, I wanted them to get Presti.
Yeah.
Presti's a bad man.
He's a bad man.
But we saw how that went. So
and see, they could easily make a move, which I think it would be a good move, is that they would be someone that they go after OG Anunoby and add him to that mix of the defender on the wing. Now you got some talent that's going to be a gritty team. Not saying they're a championship caliber team. Like I said, I don't see where the Knicks have that second move that gets them a second talent that's legit next to Brunson. I don't see it because we don't have it right now. As Eric says, obviously Julius is the guy they touted as that, but everybody and their mama know that ain't it. That ain't it.
Maybe we can get Katie and Kyrie to come.
Imagine if they were crazy not to come here. I mean, we didn't want Kyrie. But
the Knicks weren't cool, I think we
weren't cool.
That's what KD said. Yeah,
we weren't cool.
I think Knicks had barbershops next to the place. That's
I'm sorry, I can't curse on this thing, can I?
I don't like it, but I mean, if it's a quote or something,
I'm just gonna say bitch in that situation.
Oh, you could say that.
Yeah.
I really just don't like the F bombs. That's
Oh, okay.
I'm not. I mean, it's weird to hear me say that because I say that word all the time.
I'll mute when I have to go there.
But
he brought up a good point though. Lonzo Ball's situation.
That's sad.
That's a sad thing. That's very sad.
Sad.
It is, man. I mean,
he should have, and he would have probably been on the Knicks. The Knicks people wanted him on the Knicks when when the Pelicans were trying to trade him. They were like, he would have been a great fit here in New York. Pass first guy. Did these dudes need somebody to pass?
And defense, yeah.
And defense. you're not getting smoked at the point of entry there as far as the point guard. So he would have been a great defender on the rim. So
I hope he can play again.
Meniscus is a bad injury. I've known so many people that have gone through that, gone through surgery, and been like, it's worse than it was before. Meniscus repairs are a funny thing.
It's just sad.
Yeah, I hate seeing.
I mean, they got they granted the injury exception, right? So
yeah, I believe so. Yeah. It's like when Amari became a shell himself. I mean, during some, the injury, he was dynamic. I mean, of course, when he gets to the Knicks, he needs like 2 new tires from Costco, and he's not guaranteed. Some Knicks are like, no, he's running training wheels, give him training wheels and sign for $900 million. It's like
when Phoenix was only offering 3 years to him, you had to know what was up.
Yeah,
I mean,
from what I know, from what they reported, the Knicks were very well aware that he would only have a year. And this was the saving face, which is so typical. This was saving face because they did not get LeBron and Wade. So they go and sign this guy. And granted, who didn't love Amari the first part of the season? Everybody.
Oh, he was great.
He was that dude. I'm like, man, we got a star in New York finally, somebody who can. And to learn that they knew he had at best a year.
There needs to be a 30 for 30 on that.
It's that you just it's Marvin Gaye make you want to holler, throw both your hands. What else you gonna do?
It's true, man. That was oh, that summer. I don't even want to talk about
and they didn't Chris Paul should have been. I mean, the Knicks, the trust. I know the brother there talking about this team. It's like you got to just be so leery. You trade for a guy like Cat and. They get a mental disorder when they come here. You just don't know.
The woulda, shoulda, couldas with the Knicks. That's what they should change their name to. The woulda, shoulda, couldas, because that's pretty much. Yep, Chris Paul. We talked about, man, so many guys.
That's what I worry about now.
Curry.
I'm seeing this team, and I really do like the players on this team. See, that's the thing. I really do like our team is a cool team to watch. It's not like I love Brunson. I mean, clearly, I like RJ. Yeah, there's improvements. Clearly, we'd love to see from him. And there's not. I mean, I'm not the biggest Quickly fan, but I still like watching them play. I mean, the dudes are all out effort. They want to be Knicks. They play with great effort in the Garden, and that's all we've ever asked for any of them. Granted, Obi didn't work. But I liked Obi also, Mitchell Robinson. It's not hard to like these guys. These guys, they play with the all-out effort, and they play like what New York has been wanting from their players for the longest time. It's just, the aspirations now are actually elevated, and we're looking at the postseason and saying, damn, we should have probably, if we had this, we would have beat Miami. And now this becomes the scary game in New York. The expectations are up. And now all of a sudden you got to go, how do we get better? And I don't know if this team, other than what we're banking on hopefully happening, is RJ is an all-star level talent coming into the season.
You trade everyone, like I said before.
You have to.
You start over. That is the way to go. I'm telling you.
Reboot. What every IT person says, reboot. That's what I always say. That's
I'm probably RJ's biggest fan, and I would even include him in the trade. Even though he's young, and I think he would be a guy you can, build with. No matter who you brought in, you could build with him. Like he'd be that type of guy. But I'd be like, yeah, it's fine. Just clean house, get rid of everybody.
It's never going to happen in New York.
It's not. It's not. It's sad. But that's what I've always wanted. Like, I've always wanted them to just start.
I've always wanted me and you are unison.
Win 14 games, get the first pick in the draft, get the pace, start building. Yeah.
We were heading that way. Like Eric brought up that great point earlier. It was Julius Randle. Julius Randle is the linchpin for a lot of misery for the Knicks.
He did. He accelerated the timeline.
And some of it is definitely not due to him.
No.
There's things I don't like about him as a player on the floor. I'm not sure he's a great person. There's things about on the floor that I don't like about him. But also I don't like how they as an organization made decisions based on a limited amount of example that that they felt obligated and forced to extend a guy because you label him as being a star. That he clearly is an all-star. We know that perennial. But he's not your franchise player type all-star.
He's ours.
Yeah, but he's ours now, and they knee jerked a rebuild because they needed one more draft. They needed the one more draft, which was the Cade Cunningham draft. They needed that one more draft.
Yeah,
and the Knicks probably would have had at least a bona fide talent had they fell into the top 10. Maybe they could maybe they got to the top 3. Who knows? But that draft alone could have changed the fortune of the Knicks moving forward. And you less need what you need now, which is assets in order to go facilitate a bigger trade. Because I don't think if you took RJ, Randall, and a bunch of picks, I think someone would probably give you Paul George.
wow.
Okay.
All right.
In this market, think about you a Knicks fan. Who do you think you're gonna get with that?
Oh well, people always talk about the
I don't
Knicks
think
tax, right?
I don't think Paul George is worth that much. I'm saying if you were to go
No.
these guys, who do you think?
But there's no, you're right. But I'm saying there's the Knicks tax, right? People talk about the Knicks tax. You have the people always want the Knicks to kind of have to stretch further than they would another team, and that's the tax. So yeah, I mean, okay, now that we're even more depressed, I'm even more depressed than we were before. I think it's time to close this one down because it's just it's that time. And
Yes.
anyway, all right. So Ty, tell people where they can find you.
You can find me living in hell. That's one of the places. As a Knicks fan, it's miserable as all hell. But you can find me on Gene Scribble on Twitter. You can also find us on our Facebook page, All Knicked Up. Come holler at your boy. We're always shooting content. Always want to talk. Come get at us.
Yes. Okay, Joe. We need to get you on more socials. I need to force you to go on socials.
I'm not going anywhere near Twitter.
Okay, go on Thread.
I do want to make one more point.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
The Randall contract was not a mistake. I'm going to stick
Yes,
with that. And the reason being is that whole scenario was never going to happen. We were never going to tank out and go 14 and out. That was never going to happen to this team.
It was a mistake when they did it.
I don't know that I agree with that because I think of some of the slobs that have come through here. He is one of the most talented players that we've had through here. And frankly, look at Randall through the context of a lot of the other people that have played for this team for the last 10 years.
No, I'm not saying that. But they signed him a year before they had to.
Yeah,
they had him under contract for another season.
I think that may have I understand the point there, but I still don't think it was a mistake signing him personally. But okay, so you can find me on the fan page. Yeah.
We're gonna get you on.
Maybe we could talk about some new social possibilities outside of Twitter offline.
Yeah, well, just not OnlyFans. I gotta go to OnlyFans, but other than
I could use the second income.
But other things will be discussed for sure. All right, guys, you see my stuff there. So sorry, that one. There we go. The first one, that's my personal account at Finally33. The second one is the show account at all_Knicked_up. My personal account, discuss everything. The All Knicked Up account, I try and just keep it to basketball and the Knicks. Been interacting with many different folks there. Again, trying to just build a following for the show, getting people to follow us. Maybe Coach Sire saw me there and he got connected there. I don't know, but he's a new subscriber, so that's great.
Yes, sir.
So you can interact with me at either place. I love talking about crap all the time. So you check me out over there, no matter what. I also do a show called Straight Outta Gotham. We have a show account at straight__G. We talk about pop culture, movies, comic book stuff, video games, all different genres of film, TV. It's a very fun listen. Me and my co-host Peter we have a really good time on the show. It's got a little bit of a New York slant to it because we're both from the New York area, so we kind of try to keep it the regional. A lot of our humor, so we try and keep it that way. All right, so I think that's it. Unless you guys have any closing thoughts. All right, so for Ty and Joe, I'm Eric. You are watching All Nicked Up, and we'll see you next time.